Phil.
Looks like something out of a horror story. Shocking video obtained by TMZ shows Courtney Clenny covered in blood. Police say she stabbed her boyfriend.
Her lawyer says it was in self-defense.
Obumseli was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead.
She killed my son, and the next day she's out there.
You just killed your boyfriend.
Numerous individuals will testify that it was abusive, but only at the hands of Courtney.
How does someone throw a knife 10 to 20 feet away and that fatally stabs a person?
A Dr. Phil exclusive.
Today, in an all-new Dr. Phil exclusive, it's a story that is sweeping the headlines. A family faced with every parent's worst nightmare. A deadly romance. A Miami model stabs her boyfriend to death inside a glittering oceanside high-rise. Disturbing video obtained by TMZ shows Courtney Clenny, a social media influencer who boasts millions of followers, wearing a bikini top and covered in her boyfriend, Christian Toby Obumseli's blood. She was questioned by police but has not been charged because authorities believe she acted in self-defense.
Looks like something out of a horror story. On Sunday, April 3rd, police responded to a domestic disturbance call at a luxury Miami condominium. What they found was jaw-dropping.
Miami PD says they were called to this Edgewater condo to investigate a domestic violence call when they found Obumseli suffering from a knife wound.
Shocking video obtained by TMZ shows a woman, 25-year-old Courtney Clenny, covered in blood and handcuffed. Police say she stabbed her boyfriend, 27-year-old Christian Obumseli, in the shoulder amid a struggle.
Obumseli was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead. Courtney Clenny's attorney says just about a week before all this happened, she removed her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, from the lease because of other domestic violence issues. But apparently, he continued coming back.
These allegations Clenny has against Obumseli, her lawyer says, led to his death.
As the investigation continues, the questions are piling up. But Clenny's attorney, Frank Brado, says people are pointing fingers without knowing all of the facts. He says despite the national attention this case is gaining, his client is innocent.
It was clearly a toxic relationship and had their ups and downs, and unfortunately it culminated with his death.
We have no cause to believe that this was a case of self-defense. Toby was raised by a very strong family with strong morals, strong values.
Obumseli's family says that he was a soft-spoken man and said the idea that this was warranted is unthinkable.
Today, we go behind the headlines. What happened behind the glass windows of this luxury high-rise? And who saw what? Friends and family claim the couple was hiding dark secrets. Courtney's attorney insists she acted in self-defense, but Toby's family says their son, not Courtney, is the victim. Toby's parents, Christopher and Chio, his brother Jeffrey, cousin Karen, and their attorney, Larry Hanfield, join us for an exclusive interview. They say they will never stop fighting for justice. I'm glad to meet you, but very sorry for the circumstance. I just can't imagine how you are feeling right now. I absolutely hate this for you, but we're here to talk about this and get this story out there and hopefully have some impact, right?
Absolutely. We want your audience to know how they found out about the killing, and which was very, very insulting how they found out about it. They had no idea that Toby had been killed. They found out when someone from the medical examiner called requesting they to donate the organs.
Which one of you got that call?
I got the call.
So you did not know anything had happened?
No, nobody called me.
I'm shocked. That's just inconceivable. I'm so sorry that that happened to you.
Yes, I was at work, and the lady said that she's calling to know if I'll give them the permission for Toby to donate his organs. And I'm like, what? Donate what? I told her, I said, ma'am, I don't understand what you're saying. And she asked me, are you saying that the medical examiner's office has not contacted you? And that was on Monday. I gave my sister the number to call. And that's how we got to know that Toby was killed. The way the news came to me was very, very inhuman and devastating. And we got to know that it happened on Sunday.
So this happened on Sunday, and you didn't learn about it until you got this out of the blue call on Monday?
Yes.
And Christopher, you were involved in these calls?
No, I was at work myself. She called several times. I didn't know. Not until my son called, and I was saying, what's up? Usually he doesn't call me when I'm at work, you know. So I picked up the phone, and he said, Daddy, come home. Toby's dead.
And how did you find out, Jeffrey?
I was on my way to work. My uncle called me, and he told me to come home, that my brother had passed. And because I couldn't believe anything that happened. This is unreal. His birthday was literally in about a week.
At this time, the family still doesn't know the details as far as how Toby was killed. And so the entire family is now trying to inquire and investigate as to what happened. So Jeffrey and I contact the detective, and he states that, that he's busy, they don't have any details to give us at this particular moment, that he'll call us back. We call back, I think maybe an hour later, and he was very dismissive. He was like, you guys need to give me time to do my job. We're saying, okay, well, can you just share anything that you know? All we know is that our family member has been killed. And he was just very, very cold. He wouldn't tell us what occurred until finally, when he called later on Monday evening, and he stated that, based on Courtney's reporting that Courtney had killed him in self-defense, and that there was enough evidence for him to, close the case, close the investigation at that particular time.
This was on Monday? This
was Monday.
Within 24 hours?
Within less than 24 hours, he had enough information to conclude that this was a domestic dispute, and based on the reports that he had, that was all the information that he needed.
And what's very disturbing about that, the autopsy would not have been concluded within 24 hours. So therefore, for any detective to make that statement, prejudging without conducting an investigation, is totally irresponsible.
I haven't heard the 911 call because they haven't released it, but he was supposedly found stabbed after police had responded to what they describe as a domestic violence call that 911 received, made by Courtney.
Well, we don't know, due to the fact, as you've indicated, they have not released it whatsoever. But most important, we do know, at that point, there were two individuals in the apartment. One is dead, the other one is the only other person. And at that juncture, she had given two different versions to the detective. One version that she allegedly threw a knife at him, and the second version, maybe she just stabbed him. However, Courtney, to this day, has not been arrested. It wasn't until I set up a meeting with the state attorney's office after the police conduct their investigation is that we were able to get some assurance that an investigation would take place. So it is inexcusable for any person to have to endure and be treated the way they were treated. And to this day, they have not even been able to bury Toby because the body is still in Miami-Dade County in the medical examiner's office.
And what is your understanding of what Toby died from?
He died as a result of being stabbed. Obviously, as he bled to death.
Do you think his killing has been downplayed in Courtney's favor?
Coming up.
Is she a professional knife thrower? How does someone throw a knife 10 to 20 feet away and that fatally stabs a person?
Does he have a history of being violent with girlfriends in the past?
Tomorrow.
I was a nurse for almost 50 years. I think I know what I'm doing when it comes to medication.
They claim their mom is addicted.
She's had a fentanyl patch on her for 12 years now. 12 years.
Does anybody ever tell her straight up, you're an addict, you're high? Are you addicted to pain medication?
No, I'm dependent on it. Dependence isn't the same as addiction.
That's tomorrow. Then on Monday.
I have a hard time looking at him without feeling hate.
You were threatening to beat her with a belt, and then you said, this family is on fire. We need to put out the fire.
That's Monday.
It really comes down to, for every action is a reaction. She's claimed she was choked in the room. Okay, well then we would see physical injury consistent with that. There are reports apparently of neighbors claiming that they saw physical violence between him and her in at least days leading up to this. That all is going to play a big role in this, because if he's been physical with her ever in the past, then that obviously placed her in greater fear of imminent death or great bodily harm.
Do you think Toby's killing has been downplayed in Courtney's favor?
Absolutely.
Because I understood that their report was that he had a stab wound in the shoulder that he succumbed to at the hospital.
And I think that is even an important point to amplify, is that we were told by the detectives that Courtney reported that he was some distance away, and she thinks that she threw a knife at him, and that knife hit his clavicle, puncturing an artery, and that's how he died. And so I asked the detective, you know, that doesn't make sense to me. Is she a professional knife thrower? How does someone throw a knife 10 to 20 feet away and that fatally stabs a person?
Have you seen the medical examiner's report yet?
No.
Still haven't seen that?
Haven't. Florida is a stand your ground. You can use self-defense, but only when deadly force has been threatened to be used against you. So what we do know is that Toby did not have any weapon. There have been witnesses that we have discovered. One previous boyfriend has indicated that she attempted to stab him on more than two occasions. There is an individual that was visiting that apartment that doesn't know Toby or Miss Courtney, and they videoed an incident before where Courtney being downstairs trying to do harm to herself, and Toby was the person that was trying to calm her down. We've located witnesses that the police have not even interviewed, that Courtney got into an argument after allegedly drinking, and apparently she was showing very physical behavior against Toby.
Well, let me ask some questions here. Does he have a history of being violent with girlfriends in the past? Has he ever been charged with assault or domestic violence with any girls that he's dated before?
No, he hasn't.
He went to high school in Dallas and Plano, right?
Yeah, Plano East Senior High School.
And then Texas Tech?
Yes.
And you say you were at work. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse?
Yes, sir.
And you were, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a technician.
And you were on your way to work?
Yes, I was on my way to work.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a project manager. I work in the pharmaceutical healthcare space, biotech and pharma.
All right. What kind of work do you do?
I'm an attorney and a food blogger.
And Toby was, he was studying business, right?
Yes, he was studying.
Tech?
Yes. He wanted to be an engineer, but then he also wanted to do business as well.
I ask all of you all what your occupations and careers were. What did you know about her occupation and career?
Toby had told the family about his new girlfriend when he came home for Thanksgiving in 2020. And so he shows us her Instagram, and he has stated that, you know, she was the OnlyFans model. And I just remember telling Toby, you know, like, is this something you're going to be serious about or whatnot? But he was really excited. Unfortunately, once they started dating, Toby stopped coming around.
The first time I laid eyes on Courtney was a TMZ video the day of this tragic event. And with your permission, can we take a look at that?
Coming up.
You should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did.
She killed my son. She took a life. If the reverse was the case, I know Toby would be arrested.
Dr. Phil May.
Welcome to the maze.
The Messy.
Why are you continuing to bring things into the house? You've got expired food from 3 years ago. Thanksgiving dishes in the sink. You're living with a smoke alarm that's been going off for 2 years. That's what I call stuff.
In the face of defeat.
You're my blood gets pumping, dude.
How did it feel to you that someone was coming into your home and attacking you?
Made me feel like you didn't love me.
No one can compete.
Life changed.
Exclusive.
The first time I laid eyes on Courtney was a TMZ video the day of this tragic event. And with your permission, can we take a look at that?
Yes.
This is from a long lens and a distance, but we see her sitting. It looks like a bra and some sweatpants, perhaps.
Yes.
And so this was right after, apparently. And Jeffrey, what'd you think about that video?
Just horrified.
I'm angered to see that video. She's kissing her dog. There's nothing about her body language that demonstrates remorse or an understanding of the seriousness of what took place. Even the next day, she's seen at a bar with her father having a drink. It's very hard to watch.
We'll take a look at that video.
And are seeking justice.
Sir?
Yeah, let's all videotape her. Okay. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just killed your boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, what was y'all's reaction to that? You see one video where she's sitting there with your son's blood all over her, petting and cuddling her dog, and then you see her out casually dressed with her father, and you know their comment, from what I understand, was it was just a hotel lobby. They were just sitting there, and people accosted them. But what do y'all think about it?
She doesn't have any remorse. It's very devastating for me and heartbreaking that she killed my son and that the next day she's out there with the father. She took a life. And I am asking myself this question. If the reverse was the case, I know that Toby would be arrested.
It was very disturbing to me.
Very. And
I would have thought that her father knew better than to bring her out in the public like that.
We haven't said it, but what you're saying is we have a white girl that killed a black man and she's out walking around. You think it was the other way around? If a black man had killed a white girl, he would be in jail.
We know that.
yes,
Absolutely.
we all know that.
She is operating on privilege.
Well, neighbors say that the police had been called half a dozen times to this apartment in the last month because of fights going on between these two, and police confirmed that they had responded to domestic violence calls a number of times. Did y'all know anything about that?
Coming up.
Several people that report she was aggressive, very jealous, very possessive of the people that she dated. The friends report that when she was under the influence of alcohol and drugs, that she got to be very violent.
One of the funniest female.
Dr. Phil exclusive.
Police confirmed that they had responded to domestic violence calls a number of times. Did y'all know anything about that?
Not that way, I know.
We don't know the context of which those calls were made. We don't know if it was Toby reporting her, and we unfortunately don't have anyone to ask.
Under no circumstances, even if the conclusion, which is a factual conclusion, would be that she acted in self-defense, that is still called justifiable homicide. There's a dead person that is dead only because someone else took that person's life.
Well, and her lawyer, Frank Prieto, says that it was in self-defense. Let's hear what he said.
This was not a crime. Courtney's innocent. She acted in self-defense, and there should be no charges filed in this case. And we're confident that when the state attorney conducts their final review along with the City of Miami Police Department, that they'll find that there's no case here. It was clearly a toxic relationship, had their ups and downs, and unfortunately it culminated with his death.
He says there is no doubt the two of them had a tumultuous relationship. Moreover, there is evidence that Courtney was a victim of physical, emotional, and mental abuse at the hands of Obumsali. That night was no different, and Courtney had the right to defend herself out of fear for her life.
Where is the evidence that Courtney stabbed and killed my son in self-defense? Was there any marks of Toby's hand?
We were told by the detective that Courtney reported that she was choked twice. And the detective also stated that there were no injuries to her neck, no markings, no nothing. He stated that there were bruises on her arm and legs. And then he later on stated that those bruises were not sustained that night. We also have several people that are closest to the couple report that she was aggressive. She was very jealous, very possessive of the people that she dated. The friends report that when she was under the influence of alcohol and drugs, that she got to be very violent. I remember asking the detective, did she have any defensive wounds or anything like that? And it was, again, like, we have to protect her rights. Her freedom. It was all about protecting Courtney. And so I'm just like, well, sir, please, someone died here. There's the possibility that she may not be telling the truth.
I just remember asking were photos taken, and the detective said no. And before we left, we pleaded, just like my cousin just stated, can you please take a second look? And no.
If she's claiming that she had to use self-defense, there would be evidence consisting of some sort of injury without photographs of an injury. And what is the basis for a justified use of deadly force?
Well, Frank Prieto says that there is competent and substantial evidence that she is the victim of domestic violence and, in fact, possible human trafficking. Do you know what he's talking about?
Have no idea. That would undermine the self-defense, because human trafficking, as you know, is when you prostitute someone for economic reason. You have them against their will. And so if he's suggesting that that is the basis of the motivation behind Ms. Courtney taking Toby's life, that undermines the self-defense within itself. But that is clearly not credible.
Well, is y'all understanding that Courtney's implying that your son was pimping her out?
Coming up.
All right, so no offense, but you look like the type of girl that only dates like rich guys. Is that true? And don't be ashamed of it.
No, that's not true. I only date black guys.
What you trying to say? We could be rich too. What you mean? You might only date rich black guys.
Well, let me clarify. I only date rich.
Okay, rich black guys. There we go.
Dr. Phil. They claim their mom is addicted.
Are you addicted to pain medication?
No, I'm dependent on it. Dependence isn't the same as addiction.
That's tomorrow. Exclusive.
Is y'all understanding that Courtney's implying that your son was pimping her out?
That's absurd, honestly. This is a woman who has a 2 million following on Instagram as an OnlyFans model, who travels the world, who freely of her own volition goes on podcasts bragging about the lavish lifestyle that she has. There's nothing to demonstrate her being held against her will. We don't even have any evidence to support that Toby was making any money based on the work that she had. The family supported Toby in many ways financially. So for her attorney to suggest that is just further insult to this entire experience.
Actually, you mentioned a podcast. She comments on that. Let's take a look at what she said on this podcast.
All right, so no offense, but you look like the type of girl that only dates like rich guys. Is that true? And don't be ashamed of it.
No, that's not true. I only date black guys.
What you trying to say? We could be rich too. What you mean? You might only date rich black guys.
Well, let me clarify. I only date rich black guys.
Okay, rich black guys. There we go.
Watching that, it just conflicts what she said, that Toby was using her, if I should use that word, sentence, against her will. It's just very conflicting.
Not a rich black guy, you know.
From my understanding, they met in Mexico, and it was right after he had lost his job. So he is not a rich guy, he's not wealthy.
I think it undermines the lawyer's statement about the human trafficking.
Were they still together at the time this happened, or had they broken up? Or do you know?
If they were not together, I mean, Toby would not be in that apartment. So they were together.
The detective states that they had broken up over the week, but then later on reconciled on Saturday.
My brother's last post on IG was with him and Courtney, saying that he loved her.
Several friends have told reporters that this relationship was in fact abusive, but that the aggressor was Courtney. Do you know if those friends have been interviewed by the police?
They have not.
And Karen, do you see him as someone that has a personality that could cause a woman to fear for her life just by his demeanor?
No, Toby is 6'2". He's a muscular guy. He played college football, but in no way, shape, or form did he have an intimidating stature or, you know, a threatening presence. You know, everyone who comes in contact with Toby would describe him as very jovial. He likes to joke around a lot, but mostly is that he's calm.
Toby's grandmother, who is 93 years old, she is really devastated. And each time she asks, has anything been said by the police or the investigators, the answer is no. So I don't know. And the gap can never be filled.
What would you say to this woman if she's watching this right now? What would you say to Courtney?
Coming up.
A few months in, it turned into something pretty dark. She would be like hitting him on the chest or like on the shoulders.
So it was always her that you observed being abusive to him, not him abusing her?
Correct.
Dr. Phil exclusive.
A woman who insists on maintaining her anonymity claims she knew the couple. She says she's coming forward to tell the story of what she says she witnessed while spending time with them. We agreed to disguise her voice. Are we all connected?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here and joining us in this conversation today.
Of course.
Now, I understand that you and your boyfriend did have the opportunity to witness Toby and Courtney together. What did you observe?
In the beginning, they seemed very in love and, you know, they were having a lot of fun. And a few months in, it turned into something pretty dark.
You say it turned pretty dark. Are you talking about that verbal abuse and physical abuse?
Yeah, I mean, we knew Toby before he started dating Courtney. So, you know, to see someone like him who was always like bright and like social turn into someone that was like always being pulled away, and you could visibly see like how the relationship started to stress him out.
And who was doing the abusing?
Courtney, 100%.
So it was always her that you observed being abusive to him, not him abusing her?
Correct. It would be something where she would get upset over the smallest things, and then she would have to like pull him outside. And then it always escalated into us hearing her screaming at the top of her lungs. Over time, yeah, we did see some physical violence on her end.
And what form did that take?
She would be like hitting him on the chest or like on the shoulders. You
said that dating her for him was a, quote, full-time job.
With her job, he was catering to her full-time, and, you know, not to say that he was miserable, like he had fun traveling and stuff with her, but with that came the dark side of her always like screaming and fighting with him.
How do y'all feel hearing some of these stories from someone that had the opportunity to observe them together?
Toby is a very caring young man, always ready to help where he can help. But unfortunately, I agree with her that he ended up on the dark side.
And you've been very careful to say that other than the observations that you've made firsthand that you can attest to, that the other things that you're talking about are just things that you've heard or learned or just allegations that need to be investigated and looked into.
Correct. You can speak to anyone in the downtown scene here that she's worked with or has partied at, and everyone has stories, but she has a past. Unfortunately, this time it went too far, and we never once questioned whether it was a thing of self-defense. We knew there was a lot of violence going on there, and we never thought it would go this far, but there's no question in our mind. Toby was a victim. He was a victim 100%.
Well, I appreciate you being candid about what you know to be true and what you think needs to be investigated. I think the family very much appreciates you taking the time to speak out. True?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, just to keep things balanced, a friend of Courtney's claims that Toby was actually stealing from Courtney and that caused a breakup.
I personally know Courtney. I've worked with her in the past. I went on a few trips with her, so I do know her personally. I've met her boyfriend, Christian. Yeah. What most people don't know is they actually broke up last month. So it's not even that they were even together anymore, actually. Oh. Yes. So he was actually stealing money from her and like back and forth, like for a full like 2 or 3 months, just stealing money from her account. And she was really upset about that, obviously. Yeah. And I have no idea if that was the reason the domestic violence happened or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But obviously somebody doesn't stab somebody for no reason. We have no idea what happens behind closed doors. It's kind of scary that our world is so judgmental and they want to bring out the worst in people before we even know the full story.
Well, that was a friend of Courtney's named Samantha. Any reaction to that?
Coming up.
That's the most damning piece of information I've seen in the whole thing as to why Courtney may have stabbed y'all's son. Visit our website and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get weekly updates, live strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else. Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today.
I do know for a fact he was stealing money from her. They broke up already, and the cops have been called 5 to 7 times prior to this incident.
Well, that was a friend of Courtney's named Samantha. Any reaction to that?
Her story is actually inconsistent with what Courtney told the detectives, which was that they had reconciled and that they were together.
As she admitted that this is information that Courtney has provided her as it relates to Toby stealing money, she didn't indicate that to law enforcement. So I think is the product of what Courtney is trying to do but she's giving contradictory statements.
Just hypothetically, let's assume that that's true.
It's motivation.
Does that not just go to motive?
Yes. Goes to
motivation. Isn't that just terrible for Courtney?
It's definitely terrible, and it goes against self-defense. It shows a motive.
I mean, that's motive.
Yes, absolutely. That's why it goes back to the family's concern is that everything about this contradicts each other. She has been given privilege, and the family just want her to be treated like everybody else would be treated.
If she is telling people what that Samantha says she's telling people, that goes to motive and is a whole different...
Absolutely.
That's the most damning piece of information I've seen in the whole thing as to why she may have stabbed y'all's son. None of us were there, but there's certainly a lot of circumstantial information here that needs to be considered. Will that bring your son back? Sadly, it will not. But at least you will know that he was honored with fair consideration that he deserves. What would you say to this woman if she's watching this right now? What would you say to Courtney?
Words alone cannot express my feeling at this time, and to see her, you don't think, why?
What do you think should happen to her?
She should be arrested. She killed my son. She should be arrested. I mean, that's the law in America.
Do you think the system has failed you?
Of course, because nobody called me when this happened. The only call that the family received, it was for me to give them permission for Toby to donate his cornea. That's very inhuman.
Obviously, because it's a white girl and a black man, there's been stuff in the media about his tweets from 10 or 12 years ago that were controversial. Do you think that's having an effect on how this case is being looked at?
It was years ago at my brother's very young age. But regardless of his tweets, did that mean that he had to be murdered? Was it warranted?
I think it's absurd to go back and pull up something that some kid said in high school. I think it's maybe divided some of the black community right now. That doesn't reflect who he is today. and I would hope that it would not keep people from supporting this family's pursuit of justice in this situation.
Absolutely.
If what her attorney is saying is true, he has substantial and compelling evidence, then put it on the table and let's see it.
Absolutely.
And to date, the system has failed to deliver that to you. I hope that turning a bright light on this here can change that narrative and can get the attention to this that it deserves.
What I want is basically a fair, unbiased investigation. And we want to thank you, Dr. Phil, for at least giving this family an opportunity to show you what they experienced, because no family should have to be here and have to go through what this family has had to go through.
I'm so sorry that that happened. There's no excuse for that. You're doing everything you can to get this to justice.
It's hard, but Dr. Phil, we thank you.
Thank you all for entrusting me with telling this story.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Dr. Phil. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We reached out to Courtney's attorney, Frank Prado, for a comment. He says Courtney's statements about the incident have not been released by law enforcement. Therefore, the family's allegation that Courtney gave conflicting statements about Toby's death is absolute conjecture. He denies Courtney abused Toby or any other man she's dated, calling the allegations absolutely false. He also denies Courtney ever attempted to stab a previous boyfriend. He claims Courtney and Toby had a tumultuous relationship in which both were involved in episodes of aggression. However, he insists it was Toby who physically, mentally, and emotionally abused Courtney. He claims there is evidence Toby was trying to control Courtney by providing her with Xanax, and as discussed in our interview with the family, he also accuses Toby of involvement with an aspect of human trafficking of Courtney. He says Toby's death was a result of Courtney defending herself in what he calls a fight for her life. He claims Toby was involved in the commission of a forcible felony that night, and Courtney had every right to defend herself against a much larger and stronger individual.